A lot of them, though, are using different programs to get deposits and that sort of thing, and they want a signed lease before they're gonna give you a deposit, so how do you?
Well,
Usually they don't qualify.
yeah, they don't qualify then. That's the way I would handle it. And some of these programs understand that, and they'll work with you on doing that. And then you need to decide, again, back to the qualification, do they really qualify long-term, not just for the move-in? You gotta look at that.
Housing wants to inspect your property. I find I want to turn it down, and I've told people this, hey, they complicate my life, they gotta come out and inspect. And in the meantime, I don't know, yes or no, if I rented it to you. It hasn't been approved, so
Yeah.
it's a lot of red tape, and I'm not excited about housing. I've told people that.
Yep.
Am I in danger?
Well,
Yes.
Yes.
a little. Actually, one of the things we've found in our business is that those inspections actually work in our favor, because they come out periodically and inspect them, and if they're not taking care of the property, the housing will get all over them. They'll get written up as bad as your property will be written up, or worse.
Couldn't he just tell him he doesn't qualify because he hasn't got smoke alarms or screens? You have to have screens on your windows and smoke alarms.
Yeah.
You're eliminating yourself right from the get-go.
Well, if they want housing, and you don't want
Well, you
housing.
want to have smoke alarms anyway, though.
Well,
Have the liability,
just put it in after.
Yard work,
Take it
let's,
out.
let me get to a couple of these others really quick. The yard work, I know what you're saying. But I think you really need to require the tenant to be responsible for that lawn, because you're not there, you don't want to be there all the time.
They are good tenants. They pay a high price to live there. They pay it on time. They don't have any, I don't have any problem. The
Yeah.
only thing is, the yard can be expensive if I pick up on it.
Yeah, it really would. And so what I would do if I were you is I would sit down with them and say, listen, this is a problem. How are we going to resolve this issue? Because getting back to the statement I made earlier, if you can make a good tenant out of a bad one,
And they're good.
and yeah, that's the only area, you should be able to resolve that in some fashion that would be amicable to
Agreeable to
both.
both of us. Just sit down and hash it out. I wish I had.
Yeah, I think that's the best approach, communication. There was a hand here.
Oh, I was gonna say, sometimes, I don't know what state this house is falling in disrepair as far as the yard is concerned, but you have city requirements that if it gets above 6 inches,
Mhm.
you call the city and they go out and find them. You know,
They don't find that, they find you.
That's right, so what you
Well,
could
but
do.
the thing, what we're talking about here is overall property value.
Okay.
If you want your property value to go up, then landscaping has to be important.
That's true.
And if it's important to you, it's gonna be important to the community, because it's not nice to have somebody living next to
Right, the
you
community.
that doesn't take care of the property.
Yeah, they'll.
And if you get this community on your side, you'll be a happy camper and they'll be happy tenants.
That's
And,
good.
and open communication with that tenant can often bring them into line if they understand where you're coming from. Yes, ma'am.
If they're upper end clients,
And they are.
just tell them if they don't do the yard work, you will send someone in there to do it and it will come out of their rent.
They'll
be billed.
Yeah,
You'll
bill them
for it.
Right,
Bill it
you
for-
bill them.
Right.
Right, rather than-
Their rent,
Just
yeah.
say,
Rather than
we'll take
increasing.
care of it, but you'll be charged.
Right,
Right,
exactly.
and it might take a couple of comply or vacate notices. I mean, I know you don't want to do that, and so the way to resolve that is to just go meet with them.
Yeah, I think I need to do more talking with them.
Okay, bankruptcy,
I do.
I'm not an attorney, but it's my understanding that they've got to pay that rent even if they're going into bankruptcy. If they don't pay it, then they can be evicted. You might have to get an attorney involved to help you through that eviction, but I think it's doable. Student debt, you know, that's a tough one because they do get deferments or extensions. And as long as those extensions are going to be in place, they're okay. But as soon as they have to start paying those student loans, then it can jeopardize your situation. But I think that's a case-by-case basis. You just have to look and see where their situation is and what they have going.
Generally, I would think student loans, they'd be fairly young. We get anybody in their early to mid, maybe even late 20s, we require a cosigner from a local adult, an older adult who would be responsible.
Now, there's a really good idea. That might help you. In fact, we've actually asked for cosigners on people that are a little bit older.
Yeah.
Maybe in their 30s, probably not 40s, but in their 30s. And with that student debt, that might be a good approach to take with that, if you see that. Well, and you can always ask for a larger deposit from them too, and say you don't match our normal criteria, and therefore we have to increase your deposit.
What guideline do you use for establishing your deposits?
Well, it depends on our review of their credit. We have received as much as 150% of our normal deposit, and in probably 2 or 3 cases, we've gone to 200%. And it just depends on what we think the risk is of them being able to pay continually. And what it usually boils down to is if they have some judgments or some collections that are still hanging out there.
And your standard deposit?
An amount equal to a month's rent.
1 month's rent?
I have a
Okay.
question. It's not dated exactly, you can answer quickly. Is there a limit on what we can charge interest for late payments?
Yes. And I think, I'm trying to remember, I think it's, we charge 10%, and we charge that on the 6th. We don't charge anything additional after that. And the reason we don't is because our attorney has counseled us that if you go too high, the judge isn't going to give you that anyway. So be reasonable, be within what they will accept, and then you can always get it. And so we've just selected 10% right out of the chute. But see, on the 6th, they have to pay a 10% late fee on about the 7th or 8th. We're posting them up for 3-day notice, and 3 days after that, they're talking to our attorney. And so, you know, we just move them through the system really quick. We either want that money in or we're going to be prosecuting them. Excuse me, but I think you had your hand up.
If you raise the deposit for a student, can that be considered discriminatory?
No.
'Cause it's not a bracket.
You have to determine some criteria for doing it. And as long as you treat everybody that falls in that criteria the same, you're fine.
Okay.
Okay? Over here, and then I'll come back to you. I forgot what I was going to say. Okay.
We have some people that will pay late fees and some people that just ignore them. What do we do?
You post their payment first to the late fee, and then you show them that they're still late on their rent. Now, tenants want to tell you how to run your business, and it's not up to them.
So you post a 3-day notice?
And yeah, I would immediately post a 3-day notice and say you're late by, if you have a $100 late fee, you're late by $100 on your rent now.
So
You gotta keep right on them. And that, quite frankly, that makes a better tenant, because If you're on them all the time and they know you're gonna be on them, the first time or two you do it to them, they, oh, wow, I didn't know you were gonna do that. And it's, well, you know, it's in the lease. And if you have any questions about, are all of you using the UAA forms? Yeah, you're gonna be fine if you stick to those leases and make sure that you put the right numbers in there. Be tough.
I remember my question.
Okay, yes, sir.
Why do you wait till the 5th to incur a late fee as opposed to say the rent's due on the 1st? If it's not there, then it becomes a late fee.
It's just what we've chosen to do.
Yeah,
I
and
listened
Paul
to-
said differently, but yeah.
What does Paul say?
Paul said it's late, it's
On
the
the-
second.
on the second?
Yeah, I listened to a
You know-
gentleman one time here a few meetings back that said, if it's late on the 1st, if it's late, they don't have to do it by the 1st.
Yeah.
On the 2nd, it's late. And if
You
it's
know-
not, then he said, it's posted on the 3rd, and if you wait till the 5th, you're almost another week out. running
I
out.
understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree. It's just whatever your policy is, and then stick to it. And, you know, quite frankly, we should probably rethink that, but we've got a lot of leases out there that we'd have to treat differently, and we're just kind of sticking with the status quo. But, good point.
Also, I'd just like to mention, I've heard here too, that you don't make the deposit the same amount as the rent, because then if they think it's their last month's rent, basically, so they don't pay their last month.
I understand what you're saying, and that's, we're clear with ours that, you know, this is not available for payment of rent. This is a deposit, it's a security deposit, and it's not your last month's rent. So we're very clear, and it states in our lease that, but that's an interesting point. I haven't subscribed to that thought, but there's some argument for it.
Do you know, I've been fortunate in some of my properties that I get a first and last month's rent up front, plus a deposit. And is that within legal limits? Am I doing something wrong there? Because it's worked out great.
Repeat that again, I'm sorry.
I get first and last month's rent.
Okay.
Upon signing the.
Plus a
contract.
deposit?
Plus a deposit.
You know,
when they apply.
power to you. I think that's great. Yeah, if you can do that consistently, I think it's a good practice. We find that with our clientele, we can't get quite that much out of them, and so we just go for rent and deposit, first month's rent deposit.
May I ask you, do they stay more than a year?
Well,
The first and last month,
this
right?
happens to be student housing down in Provo, and it works great, because
Oh,
typically they're there a year.
mom and dad are paying it, that's easy.
Well, they're married students, so,
Okay. All
but
right.
mom and dad are probably starting them out too.
Yeah, they're helping. All right, well, I think we're coming to the end here.
One more.
One more. Okay, I'm gonna take two more, because this lady had her hand raised.
I was just gonna say that we've always done that, but we do tell them, we'll work with them and give them a few months to pay, like 3 months to pay their last month's rent.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, that's, if you're gonna give them time to do anything, it's that last month's rent, it's not the deposit.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. But then we also tell them that rent's due on the 1st, but if it falls on a holiday or a Sunday, then we give them the first business day after that. But we're always nice if they call and say,
Yeah.
I've got this problem, but
Well,
real nice the first time.
yeah. Well, your policies should be your policies, they should be adhered to in every case, but I think that's good. Yes, ma'am.
People, is that true that they can have insurance, that kind of dog? People dog. People.
Pit bulls.
No, it depends on your insurance carrier.
Yeah,
So the insurance say, no, please
If-
don't do it.
Yeah, you should have a policy regarding animals and requiring, well, saying no pit bulls is fine. But
Is that true that the people can have their own insurance and that way out?
they can provide you, yeah, if, I do a lot of work with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, under the Protecting Tenants in Foreclosure Act. And they require that if there's a pit bull on the premises or any other aggressive breed, a Rottweiler or even a German Shepherd, that they have to have insurance, up to $300,000. So, you know, that's up to you. Has anybody noticed that there's a kind of a rash of pit bulls being used as service animals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
that's
can
a-
deny that, can't you?
No.
Oh.
If it's a service
I know
animal
you
and
can have a
it's,
service animal.
if it's a service animal and it's got, yeah, they've got a doctor's statement that that's required.
Comfort animal.
Even if you have a no pet policy for everyone?
Right.
Yes.
You cannot,
They're not a
you
pet.
cannot keep an animal out if they're a,
You have to be a trained service animal, not just get
well,
some doctor and say it's
no,
valid.
unfortunately, under the new regulations, if it's, who call it a comfort animal? If it's just for comfort or, yeah, they don't have to be trained. They don't have to be a seeing eye dog or anything like that. So I've had people show up with 2 pit bulls and said, oh, they're service animals. Fortunately, they didn't qualify for other reasons. One more and then we've got to.
In terms of these service animals, if you are going to rent your home furnished while you're taking another job in another state for a year or 2 and you intend to come back to that house and live in it, and you're, let's say, allergic to animal dander, would there be an exception, or do you have to take your furniture out and just rent it vacant?
I don't know of anything in the law that would allow you to do that, to exclude those animals.
You have less than 3 properties,
Well,
then you do not have to follow the fair housing law.
I'm not sure, this might not come under the fair housing. So what I would suggest is does it?
Yeah, it's fair housing.
It is fair housing, okay. So, yeah, I don't fall into that situation, but, so if you have 3 or less units, you don't have to comply with fair housing, and you could be exempt in those cases. So, but govern yourselves accordingly. We make sure that you're not going to get sued. Okay,
All right, well, thank you very much, Perry.
thank you.
Since we're running out of time, I'm just going to very briefly go over the last item that we have, which is the 2013 market report we printed out for you. And so, actually, I think some of you may have the 2014 one. Let's see, one we couldn't print, I couldn't find it. So we will post this on our website along with the video that we've been taking and along with the other 2 presentations. But just briefly, I wanted to show you something that's of interest in this. A lot of this goes over economic data about apartment communities being built, about where people rent and things like that. But number 10 is perhaps, page 10 is perhaps the most valuable information for you. This is areas and how much the average rent is, and perhaps most importantly, the average rent per square feet. So this gives you an idea of what other people are paying. So you can look at your rent and see if you're way high or way low. There may be a reason for that. You may have a really rundown apartment in a nice neighborhood, or a really nice apartment in a very poor neighborhood. But it's this page right here. And if you have the newer one, it's going to be on a different page perhaps. Here, yes, I have some up here. But this will give you some information about what the average is in that area. And so this is just one small step that you can take towards learning how to set your own rent rates. Because that's something very difficult. And unfortunately, we can give you advice on almost anything, but because of antitrust regulations, we can't tell you how much to charge for rent. But we can teach you how to set your price, and this is one of the best steps for that. So if you don't have one of these, you can come. I have a few more, and I'm happy to discuss anything. But since we're just a little bit over on time, we'll close now. And I believe that we'll be available for questions, the presenters tonight, and I'll stay hanging around for a little while. All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
No problem.